What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Yours truly, Kendrick McKnight here, back again with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Yours truly, Conversations with Kendrick McKnight, man. Episode 3, and I have my guy here with me, a guy that I had the opportunity of not only spending time with, but also having a couple classes, communication classes, right? With and man, and he's here today. The one and only man, Matthew Myers. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Ken. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. So we discussed a little before we started recording, man. How was your entire experience at Wingate University?
Yeah, I think if I had to look back on it, I think the one word that keeps coming to mind is growth. So when I first got there freshman year, I was supposed to room with a fellow I had met at one of the previous events, where you can go meet your future classmates.
Hmm.
And something just told me to kind of hold off on that and just roll the dice and meet my random roommates. And ended up being paired up with someone that went on to be one of my best friends in the world, right? We still talk to this day. So
Hmm.
just thinking back to where you are as a freshman, you kind of go in there and you've got your immaturities about yourself, and you're still trying to figure out who you are and, where you identify and what your friend group is supposed to look like. And, you've got all these different things. And I think the great thing about growth is you never realize it's happening, right? Until you
Hmm.
pause a few years later and then you look back on it and you're like, wow, if I would have been in the same situation 5 years ago, I'd be making some poor decisions. So um, I really enjoyed my time there, had a lot of good classes, met a lot of great people, much like yourself. And I think it was a great time.
Most definitely, man. And it's crazy that you said that as far as like growth, because I've always been the type of person where I'm constantly on the go and go and go. And I want to achieve certain things and achieve these goals and um so ambitious to the point where I lose sight of where I was. You know what I mean? As far as like the growth into where I am now. Like I want that. I'm constantly trying to figure out what's next. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. So yeah, growth is a very interesting process as far as life. And it's definitely important to celebrate yourself as far as, just yeah, whatever you are right now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
take me back though, man. Where are you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in a small town, Wilkesboro, North Carolina. So it's kind of in a valley. It's about 45 minutes away from Boone, and
Mm,
about
okay.
45 minutes from Winston-Salem. So it's a small ghost town, but a lot actually comes from there. Lowe's Hardware, massive home improvement company, first store was in North Wilkesboro. So
Wow.
same for Lowe's Foods, if you've ever seen one of those. They're mainly a southern grocery store chain, but they're $1 billion. It actually comes from the same family. They were brothers that started it, ended up selling them off to different places, and now they're completely different companies, but both absolutely massive and really successful. So, um, not a lot to do, which is kind of where I honed my communication skills. Right. So when there's nothing to
Hmm.
do or no activities for you to go and keep yourself occupied, you turn to people. So it's kind of how I got into all that.
That's really cool, man. I never knew that as far as light lows.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Not a lot comes from there. So, kind of tout it out where you can. Actually, a funny story. Before Lowe's Home Improvement, they're headquartered now in Mooresville, North Carolina, which is about an hour outside of Charlotte.
Hmm.
They were looking to put in their headquarters. They wanted Wilkesboro, the town of Wilkes, to build four new middle schools, one for each district. The commissioners thought they were bluffing. They said, "No, we're not doing that." And Lowe's was like, "Okay." And then Lowe's started the process to pack up and head to Mooresville. And so the commissioners were scrambling, started building these middle schools. They got them built, but by that point it was too late, and they pulled out. So Wilkesboro really had a chance to be that upcoming town, but we blew it. So
Yeah, that's
it was
kind of
still
crazy.
but fun side story about that. Yeah.
So you're born and raised in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. What was childhood like? Do you have any siblings, and how was your, you know, relationship with your parents growing up?
Yeah, so I think I had a unique upbringing. So on my mom's side, I had an older brother, had a little brother, which he was born a little bit later. When I was five, though, up until I was about five, it was just me, my older brother, and my mom. When I was five, I finally met my dad. So he had two kids, my little brother and my sister, who's about a year younger than me. So I'd start to go spend time with them every other weekend around the same time. My mom married my stepdad, so he's is now a 22-year retired veteran from the U.S. military. So on my mom's side, I've got my working mom. She's a nurse.
Hmm.
Stepdad, he's a veteran, and they're very discipline oriented, right? They like to keep you on the path. And then on my dad's side, it was more laid back. It was chill. It was more kind of loosey goosey in a way, right? So, really
Yeah.
just navigating between, all these different personalities, right? I mean, being 5 years old, meeting, your new grandma that you've never met before, your new aunt, meeting all these different sides of the family, it can feel like a lot's thrown at you. So,
Mhm.
when I was a kid, I did not like the change. I hated it. I used to like cry every time my mom would drop me off at my dad's, right? Um, it was just crazy. And then all of a sudden, one day it clicked like, hey, I like hanging out with, my sister, my brother, my stepmom, my dad. Like being here's chill, right? It has its each side of their family has their advantages and their disadvantages, right? And just being able to grow up and take a look at that and put everything into perspective, think really helped me decide and create the kind of life, right, that I wanted for myself. Being able to pick and choose the best parts from everybody on all sides of my family, while also making sure that I learned lessons while looking at, the negative sides, if that makes sense.
No, I got you, man. Like I'm kind of similar as far as like, you know, because I lived with my mom most of my life, all my life really. And my dad and my mom wasn't together as well. So I would visit dad on the weekends or during the summer, for a week or two. You know what I'm saying? So I know what that's like as well. You know, um, getting to know my stepmom or my stepbrothers, you know what I'm saying, or my sister that came from that union, my stepmom and my dad. So I get that 100%. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't care for my stepmom for a long time because of that. Because when you're young, obviously you want your mom and your dad to be together, right? So I just wasn't really caring for that. And as I got older, I realized like, okay, my dad really like loves this woman and cares about her. So it's kind of selfish of me to just use that, oh, I want my dad and my mom to be together as a tactic to not get to know. You know what I mean? So um I just finally accepted her for who she was, and you know, all these years later we're pretty cool, pretty good, and in a great space. So what was that like for you though, man? You're 5 years old, you finally meet your dad, and you realize like, oh, you got other half siblings though.
Yep. So it was a learning curve. Like I said, at first I definitely didn't like it.
Hmm.
I would cry every day. I'd go over there, right, cry for my mama, what have you. And then compounding that was she got married shortly after all of this, was kind of unfolded. So Um, I know in my younger years, because my mom was very easy on me growing up, right? My mom, my grandparents, if I would mess up or whatever, my grandparents would be like, "Oh, he's just a little fella, he's learning." Everyone was always cutting me a break. So, when my stepdad came into my life, having that military background and being very, you're gonna do, what I say when I say it, kind of mentality that sort of, I guess, drove a wedge between us for a long time. So, I would intentionally do stuff to, rile him up, because I knew that my mom would come to my defense or whatever. I was being, for lack of a better word, I was being a little shit sometimes,
Yeah.
so, um, but, we were able to work and grow through that because, as you get older and you get these different perspectives, you're like, okay, like you can see that my stepdad loves my mom, really loves my brother, um, loves the family in general, and would literally kill himself to do, anything he could for the family. So, I think it's just looking back, a little different than you. I never really had a vision of my mom and dad together. One, because they were so different, right, in personality. And two, I didn't even meet him till I was 5. So it was more kind of like exploring, who is this person, who are these other people within my family, and how can I navigate these relationships most effectively?
Hmm.
So learning that at a small age, one, it was really stressful, I feel like, during that time in my life, because in elementary school too, I didn't have any friends, right? I didn't start making friends till I got to middle school.
Hmm.
So, not only do I have really nobody to talk to about this, right? But I've got to figure out all this stuff. So, while it was hard at the moment, I really think it gave me an opportunity to learn different communication styles. As a kid, you're always trying to get your way with one parent or the other, or what have you. So, learning how different people respond to different types of persuasions and things like that. Like I felt like that piece set me up a lot for overall communicating with other humans, even though it was hard, in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned not having many friends during elementary days and slowly getting your way in middle school. What kind of student were you throughout those years, man? From elementary to high school?
Yep. So I can't really remember what student I was in elementary school. You go to daycare. Our my mom worked, right, and my stepdad, so they had me in after school daycare. They'd help me do my homework. I was big into video games, right? Big into wrestling. My stepdad actually turned me on to WWE when I was like 5, right? When he was still dating my mom. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Um,
Yeah.
and I was obsessed, man. So anything that would try to motivate me had to be like through that. Hey, Matt, if you do your homework, you can play with your action figures, so on and so forth. Even going into middle school, I was very poor student. I was that person that would bring their paper to class. Hey, did anybody do their math homework last night? Hey, let me copy those answers down real quick.
Mm.
Like I was
Yeah.
that guy. I was that guy. Even into high school, I was very. If you look at my high school transcript, there is one A. There's one A. There's one D. And the rest of it is like B's and C's. Like I didn't take it serious. I did what I had to not get in trouble at home,
Yeah.
but it wasn't until college that I really, put forth that effort.
I think that's most students, especially in high school. You're just like really there to talk to your friends or hang out with who you say your friends. And as a man, you talk to the girls and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
just really, unless you're just like a big brainiac, you know what I mean? You go there for the academics. Um, during that time, as far as high school anyway, did you really know what you wanted to do once you
I had,
graduated?
yeah, I had no clue. I was against going to college. I'll tell you that. I definitely didn't want to go to college. And it was hard too because my older brother, he was like the brainiac of the family. He was, always making straight A's. He went to, a private school for his last 2 years of high school. He went to Wake Forest, right? He,
Mhm.
went to the prestigious schools. He's actually about to finish his doctorate right now. Super proud of him. But as a teenager, hearing your parents always brag on that kind of behavior, knowing that you don't do those things and you don't have a desire to be that, um, it was kind of tricky navigating where I wanted to go. Um, I figured when I was in high school, the first thing I could really see myself doing is I said, okay, I could probably hold a mid level management job at like a grocery store. which, saying that out loud, now, right? That sounds like kind of sad that someone, that young that could have all these aspirations would say that. That's kind of where I saw myself at the time, right? I'm not going to college. I've been working at this grocery store. I like being here, so I saw that as a real career path. Um, but once I wasn't making a lot of money, I went and tried at different full time jobs, kind of outside of that realm. Realized I didn't like that either, and all these jobs I was looking at that I wanted to do were like college degree, college degree, college degree. And I was like, if I want something that's better than what I have right now, which isn't a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go to college. And so I was 21 when I came to Wingate. So a little old for a freshman, but it's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, most definitely. Like before we get into, Wingate or Wingate, whatever you want to say. Um, did you have any sort of, I guess you can say, resentment towards your brother? Because he always got the recognition from your parents, and you're just like in the corner, like, you know what I mean? Were
Yep.
there ever
So when
moments
I
for you that way?
definitely, especially when I was, a teenager, because yes, my older brother was a big brainiac, right? Like I'd mentioned, he was doing all these great things. And then my little brother was, multiple time, state champion wrestler. He was always winning all these like tournaments that, my parents would travel to and stuff with him growing up, getting all sorts of recognition and things like that. So I'm like, okay, my brother's a great wrestler. He's getting all these, accomplishments and all this praise. My brother is like super smart, right? He's, doing really well in school. He's got a good job, he's got a good life. And I feel like I'm just kind of here in the middle, like almost like like the disappointment in a way, right? Or, you know,
Mhm.
of the family, right? So, my brothers, two brothers are going places and I'm kind of stuck here doing nothing. So for a long time, I kind of felt that way. It didn't like bother me a whole lot. Because I was still just trying to figure out like what it is that I could do. Um, and I think that never really hits you. I think for most people, they never like it just hits you. You just fall into something,
Mhm.
right? Kind of like where I'm at now. I feel like I fell into something, like doing what I'm doing. Like after college, I just started mass applying to a bunch of jobs. They kind of narrowed it down after reading job descriptions to what I think might be interesting. And then somehow those opportunities just kind of snowball, and you don't really think about it in the moment until you're at your next stop. So
Definitely, man. Now, before you arrived to Wingate, were there other options that you thought of, and what made you decide Wingate?
yep. So my cousin actually, she had a track scholarship to go to Lee's McRae, and we wanted to go together because we were both, like we were the ones that struggled on like our end of grade testing, and we were just kind of grouped together for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Me and my cousin. And so I toured Wingate, I toured Lee's McRae, and she had also had some interest in Wingate. And I went to Wingate, and I was blown away. Like it's very flat campus, right? Because
Yep.
before college, I didn't like, wrestling was done. I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing a whole lot, so I liked that it was flat, and all the buildings looked brand new. I mean, everything about it just looked super immaculate. Everyone was talking to the instructor, right? It's like see like everyone knew each other, and it was like super friendly. Tour there. I go to Lee's McRae to tour. All the buildings super old. Like everyone is like very like closed off, like to themselves, doing their own thing. And that vibe just did not. It didn't feel right for me. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I decided to go to Wayne. It's the only other school I toured. Um, I did apply for like, of course, I applied for Chapel Hill. Right, that was growing
Yeah.
up, growing up in
Yeah.
North Carolina, right? You're either a Duke fan or your family's a Carolina fan, and my family pulls for the Tar Heels. So I thought, okay, I said I know I don't have a chance of getting here, but let me apply anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't get in, so
For sure, man. Like, as far as like my college journey, similar to you, I was just that kid that just, you know, didn't really take high school too seriously. And when my dad passed, which was my junior year, like towards the beginning of my junior year, I really, really didn't care for what I wanted to do. But realizing, what I meant to him and just wanting to make him proud, really, that kind of pushed me toward, where I'm at now. And when I graduated high school, obviously I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I skipped an entire school year. So I graduated high school in 2015. I didn't do anything. I was at home. I wasn't even working at that time. So I was just in the house. And what kind of motivated me to finally just do something was like the people that I did graduate high school with. I'm on Snapchat, I'm on Instagram, they posting their lives freshman year, doing whatever, going out, whatever. And here I am sitting at the house. That bothered me a lot. And I felt like it was one of those things where I felt life was just going past me and I would just, you know, not doing anything. So at the time, based off of my high school GPA, there was only a few colleges in North Carolina that I was able to um, apply for, and I had an actual shot at getting accepted. And one of them was Chowan University. Are you aware of that school?
I actually had a an offer to go to that school. Same
Yeah,
time I got my offer from Wingate.
yeah. So
Yep.
for me, Chowan wasn't, a bad option because it was like maybe an hour and a half from me. And it was my first opportunity to be away from home for a long period of time. And my mom was in agreement of it because it's not that far from home. So I've always knew I wanted to do something within sports. I just didn't know what exactly. And the only thing that they had that interested me was sports management. And as a way to just leave the house, I just went along with it, went with sports management, and I went to Chowan University. So I graduated high school in 2015, and I went to school for Chowan in 2016 of August. And um, did that for 2 years. And what's crazy about that is because my sophomore year there, I had my apartment where it was four people, two over here, and we have our own rooms. And the people that was on this side were football players, and the guy that was beside me was in a fraternity. So literally every weekend it was some type of get together, right? And time goes by, it's a Saturday night, and there's no one in the, living area. So I took advantage of that and I turned my TV off, turned my phone off, and just enjoyed the silence, right? And I was just asking myself, like, am I really truly happy here? And the answer at the time was no, because I'm going after something that I never cared for to do, which is sports management. And I've always wanted to do broadcasting. And it's either go after this career now or never. That's where it came down to. So I finally made a decision for myself to go after it. And the first step in doing that is to transfer. So if I had it my way, I would have definitely went to a university that's not in North Carolina. This better opportunity, you know what I mean? So I talked to my mom about it, and she was in agreement. Like, okay, cool, that's fine, but it can only be a school in North Carolina. I was like, okay. Because I was definitely looking at schools and, everywhere on the East Coast, far up and down. So I remember spending that Sunday, because like I said, that situation happened on a Saturday. I spent that entire Sunday looking at North Carolina schools. And after like the third or fourth page, I just finally gave up. You know what I mean? Because, some schools had broadcasting, but my GPA didn't match their requirement. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I'm on at my last leg here, and I'm just going to give it up and just whatever. And then on the fifth page, I stumble across this school called Wingate University. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't even gonna even look into it. But by that point, I was just like, whatever, just check it out anyway. My GPA probably don't match their requirement anyway, just like everybody else. But I looked anyway. So it was three checks for me. Number one, my GPA matched their requirement. It's like perfect. They have sports broadcasting, perfect. And then the school is literally like what, maybe 30, 40 minutes from Charlotte, right? It's like, that's three checks. I'm going to Wingate because I've always wanted to be in Charlotte and eventually live there. And at that point, I never been to Charlotte at that point. So I was like, that's a golden opportunity for me to, I guess you can say, network with whoever and whatever with the major that I'm going for. And I applied, and I remember getting the acceptance email. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, man, I cried when I got it because
That's
I, I
awesome.
I
What was
wasn't,
like?
yeah, because I didn't really think I was gonna get in, and I got in. So I transferred to Wingate uh the fall of 2018, but I had to repeat my sophomore year. But it was a pretty cool 3 years in Wingate, man.
Did you live on campus when we were there, or did you commute?
So my
Oh, you
first,
you lived on campus at least part of the
so
time. I remember now.
yeah, so like my first semester, I did not live on campus. You remember that hotel right down the road called Hilltop?
Hilltop, yeah.
Yeah, I was there at first, like my first semester there, and which wasn't bad, honestly, because I'm such a to myself guy anyway, so that wasn't a problem for me. But academically, I was just terrible, honestly, because I didn't feel the connection with not only the work, but just the professors as well. And I'm not gonna lie, I failed like two courses that semester because of the commutes. Then I made a decision to finally get on campus with a guy that because I think the summer before that fall, there was like a transfer class or like group that I was in with like everybody that was transferring to Wingate. And I had befriended a guy that was in the group and he was by himself. And I just went live with him for for the rest of that school year. And then, yeah, I was on the campus the rest of the way.
Yeah, I was about to say, I remember going over to your apartment one night and we watched it was that pay-per-view that Roman Reigns put down Jey Uso. Uh gosh, it had to be right towards the start of his title reign. Um we had pizza, we had some food.
Yeah, what I'm trying to remember what pay-per-view that was. That was during the Thunderdome era, wasn't it?
I think so, because I think we had just I remember we had all got kicked off campus. That had to have been our senior year because we all got kicked off campus in like March of junior year. They sent us all home. We didn't go back. and then we came back for senior year, but a lot of classes were remote or we had to work. I think you're
Hmm.
right. There's no fans. I think Jimmy Uso came in and like threw in the white towel. You know, they had to get creative
Yeah,
during that the Thunderdome era
that was
because
Hell in a
you
Cell,
know,
wasn't it?
was it?
Or
I don't
Payback or
remember.
something like that. It was one of those pay-per-views.
Yeah, I don't remember the pay per view. All I remember is it was neat. I thought that match was neat. I thought the build up was cool. But yeah, that's how I
Hmm.
remember you lived on campus because I remember because usually I think you'd come over to my place and I'd order us like some pizza or I think what's his name? There was a friend that we would have over. He made us. Were you there when we made the fried fish?
No, I don't remember that.
Well, I think we were rewatching a WrestleMania or something. But yeah, I knew a few people at Wingate that watched wrestling, so we would all get together time to time. It was cool.
Yeah. Who was, because you were a communications major, just as I was.
Yep.
Who during your time at Wingate was your favorite communications professor?
Oh, that is so tough. Um, all in different areas too, because John Coleman, he was cool because
Hmm.
he never held us the whole time. You know, he'd say,
Yeah.
"Here's what I want you to do," and it would be like something that would take you 20 minutes to go out and film or edit a video or something, and he'd be like, "Don't come back." So
Yeah.
I liked that. I feel like I learned a lot from Jim Coon. He's retired now. I probably
Yeah,
had
yeah,
more
yeah.
classes with him. The I think just the style and the flow of his class um, was like something that was very digestible for me, and just the way he taught. So in terms of like actually learning and retaining things, and then for engagement, I mean Miss Dunn, Professor Dunn, she had a I really liked her classes too. So I really don't know if I can put a pinpoint. I think there was just different things about each of those three teachers that I liked a lot. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know if I could if you could mix all three of them together, that would be my favorite teacher. But those are the three, at least in the comm department, that stood out to me. I mean, I took classes with others, but those three were, if there was a class offered by one of those three people, I was taking it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
had all
I was
three
rigid.
of them as well. I'm trying to remember the other one. She was a lady. I had public speaking with her. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, did you have like a 6 p.m. class with her or something?
Nah, it was like in the mornings.
Oh, yeah. She taught
It,
nonverbal Pan, Miss Pan.
yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
yeah.
definitely Coleman, my number one, because he was just so chill, like whatever, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I like you said, all of them had their different styles and that I kind of liked. So I can't choose between those four. But I actually, when I first transferred there, you remember that professor that passed?
Yeah, he was actually the dean of the department, Mr. Cannon. Well, I had
Yeah, he
when he
was.
got sick. Yeah, I had two of
Yeah,
his classes the semester he got sick, so I never actually, he was only teaching for like 3 weeks, and no one saw him ever again on campus.
yeah. Because when I originally transferred there, he was my original advisor, and I
Me
remember
too.
emailing him throughout the summer about, because at first I wasn't understanding why I had to repeat my sophomore year. And so I was emailing him throughout the summer about that. And literally maybe a week, 2 weeks of me being on campus, he was already, you know, dealing what he was dealing with. And ultimately, so I didn't really have a proper introduction face to face, but that was crazy. What
Yeah, he was my.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was saying he was my advisor too, and I was like really looking forward to taking his classes, and I was putting them
Mhm.
off because there was other classes that Professor Dunn and Dr. Kuhn was offering that I wanted to take like instead. And then by the time I finally got around to taking his classes, I felt kind of robbed of that experience because, like I said, we only had maybe 2 weeks together before he got sick. So, but he was
Mhm.
a super nice guy, really sweet. He was a good guy. I liked him a lot.
Yeah. What was the class that we took when I first met you? I don't remember.
Uh, Probably visual com, maybe. We had visual. I
Visual?
did sports broadcasting.
Yeah. I
And
remember that
then
class that we had.
yeah, and I think I took one more. I think I ended up taking 3 classes with Coleman because I didn't go for sports broadcasting. I went for like public relations. So that was
Hmm.
more Professor Dunn was doing all those classes. But I wanted to make sure I could
Hmm.
take what I could with Coleman. One, because he was cool, and two, because I liked his class. Like it was so easy. You knew you were going to make a good grade, and you knew you were going to learn something cool.
Yeah.
Like with technology. So I think it was visual. I remember we made one video. Um, we were with
Yeah, I was just about to say
that
that.
Savannah girl. You remember that
Yeah.
Savannah girl? Yeah, and at the end of the video, so we were doing like a sexual harassment like awareness video, and
Yeah.
I was like creepily hitting on her, and then she tased me with the little stun gun she had, and
Hmm.
then I got up to go chase her down, and you came up behind me and you gave me a big RKO out of nowhere. And then remember I turned over and you put your foot on me and you're like, "That's why you don't harass women." That was a good video. I thought that was funny. I don't even remember what we
Yeah.
made on that, but I had so much fun making that video with you guys. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I still have that video on my phone somewhere.
I have like I don't have the full, I don't know how to get the full video. All I've got is the clip that Savannah had sent me on Snapchat, I think, and it starts with her tasing me and it ends with you giving me that RKO. And I'm like, man, I wish I had that full length video. That was awesome.
Yeah. That was a fun time for sure. Um, what did you liked and disliked the most during your time at Wingate? Whether it was 8 a.m. classes or waking up so early to register for classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I think what I liked the least about being there was probably the food. I mean, the food in the calf, that is. And because things changed every year. So, like the first year we were there, yeah, I don't think you were there when they had the Klondike, but it was like,
Yeah, it was.
it was based. Oh, you were in
Yeah.
2017, 2018?
Yeah, I
Or,
was
okay, okay, you remember the Klondike?
there. Yeah. Well, it was I was there at the tail end of the Klondike.
Okay, but they had the tender wraps, the chicken tender baskets, whatever. So you got 2 meals
Hmm.
a day there. That was great. Well, then they shut it
Yep.
down, and like half of that next school year, because they were remodeling. They were putting a Chick-fil-A and a Freshens in there. It was closed, so you were
Yep.
forced to eat at the calf, which was like not good. Like Wingate's calf, there's a lot of good things I'll say about Wingate, but their calf is not like I've eaten at plenty of other colleges. Going to visit friends or whatever, where the calf food is so much better. Um, and then they opened it, and we got 3 meal swipes a day between Chick-fil-A and Freshens. So that was awesome, right? You never have to go to the
Yep.
calf. And
Yeah.
Subway, you were there when Subway was there in the pharmacy
Yes.
building.
Yep.
Yep. So we were covered. And then senior year, they cut it down to where you only got 5 swipes a week, and you can only use 2 of them at Chick-fil-A. So you were that was their way of trying to get people to go to the calf because by senior year they had fired Airmark and they had brought in a new group of people to do the food, which I will say they did do a better job. The food in the calf was better senior year. Um,
Hmm.
but I just didn't like how the plans were constantly changing. When you thought you were paying for your meal plan up front, you were expected to get, what you thought you were getting the previous semester.
Yeah.
So that's probably my least favorite part. Um, and also, just being young, being dumb. I feel like some of the way that I treated certain people probably wasn't the best. Um, so some of the people I was friends with, especially freshman year and sophomore year, I would say that I probably came off like definitely like a jerk. Um, Thankfully, we didn't meet until after that time. So um, I do feel like there was a certain group of friends that I had that I definitely could have treated a lot better and a lot differently. So if
Yeah.
any of them end up seeing this, I'm sorry. But that's part of growing up. You know, learning how you and your actions and your selfishness and all these different things, like how it affects people.
Hmm.
So that was a big learning curve. My favorite part about Wing It was one, the flexibility, right? Especially during COVID, all of our classes were remote. And half of them they didn't even ask you to have your camera on, so you could lay there and play 2K or Fortnite or whatever. And my buddy Sam, forever and always grateful that I met him, because I feel like he was a very important person that put me like on this path of like, immaturity and stuff that I was kind of stuck in, and kind of helped, even though he was, like 3 years younger than me, right? Because I'm 21 when I go in, he's barely 18, but like I feel like our relationship helped me get like on a path where I want to be. Like
Hmm.
you've heard people say all the time, like don't, you know, you want to be in a room with people whose level you want to be on,
Hmm.
right? Maturity wise or career wise or whatever else, not people that are at or below your level, whatever that means. So I feel like Sam was really helpful. And of course, I'm sure at first it wasn't easy. I'm always trying to get him to skip class and stuff, but he never, not one time, skipped a single class, no matter how much I tried to, hey man, let's go play such a beautiful day outside, let's go play a game of golf or whatever. He wouldn't budge. He wouldn't like. He taught me a lot of things about discipline living with him. So that was probably my favorite part about living at Wingate, was just meeting him, cultivating that relationship. He's even been up to my house twice since I've been in Charleston. So I mean, we still stay in touch. He's got a wonderful, lady. He's got a good job, and yeah, I'm really thankful for him. So
Definitely, man. I remember that as far as being remote and just having classes online. Like literally, the only time I would come out is to eat. That was a very interesting time. But as far as things that I personally didn't care for, I agree with you. The calf wasn't the best. But I mean, you had to eat, right? So,
yeah,
um, what I didn't care for at the time was them taking away Subway from me because I loved Subway. And
hmm,
where I was during that time, Subway was like right there. I kind of just walk
yeah.
because
You lived in Bean or Byram.
yeah.
Me
Me,
too. Yeah, Bean.
yeah.
Yep.
But and that kind of led, I had no choice to at least try Chick-fil-A because before that point I never had Chick-fil-A ever in my life.
Really?
Yeah. So it was either
Wow.
go to the calf and suffer or try this new thing. Or continue to spend my bucks on Pizza Hut, which I was, because we get like how much we get before the semester starts?
I thought it was like $280. I think is what they put on our.
Do something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like the high twos. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the mid of September, I'm like at $50.
Yeah, me too. Because
Just
I would always order pizza every month. For
yeah.
the wrestling pay per views, or then you think, okay, well, I got this much money, so I'm going to order, again, and then all of a sudden your account's down to $20, and you're like, God, now I really got to go to
Yeah.
the calf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you ever go to Starbucks at all?
I did. I usually didn't like spending my money there. So if I was like with a girl or something, we would go in there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd get a coffee. So I mean, my thing was all the workers. that worked in, the caf or Starbucks or whatever, they loved me. So anytime I would go, say, in Einstein's, I think Jean was her
Hmm.
name. She was always, every time I went in there, would give me a free coffee, no matter who, never charged me for my coffee.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, if Jean's hooking me up at Einstein's, right, I'm getting a coffee and half the time I'm getting free food, right? She's not taking my swipe. Why am I going to go into Starbucks? You know,
Yeah.
I did walk over there, right, our senior year, and it was still during the pandemic. But like parts of the town or whatever were starting to kind of like lift their mask restrictions and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't have my mask with me, and I didn't realize that they were enforcing that still at Starbucks. And I went in there and they kicked me out. Um, which is fine, right? They're just following the rules they're supposed to follow.
Yep.
But that was the last time I was in there. Yeah, but I think the only thing I've ever really bought from there was like a cake pop and a coffee. So, but no, I didn't spend a whole lot of time in Starbucks. What
Yeah. I
about you?
was I mean, my first couple of weeks there, yeah, I was there heavy because like, the idea of having a Starbucks on a college campus was kind of crazy to me. So I was there all the time, and slowly but surely, I'm not the one to live off caffeine. So I just lost the hype of it. I never really went that much after my junior year. So I spent most of my time because I used to work at a caf. So I was always in the caf eating or going to Chick-fil-A. So
That's right. You did work at the calf. I remember that now.
yeah.
And since you tried Chick-fil-A, is that something you still like, you still enjoy, or was it kind of like, I don't know what all the hype's about for
No,
you?
I still go there. I was just there. What's today? Sunday? So Friday. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
just
I eat it
it,
about once a week.
it just sucks now because I have to actually use money, real money for it, but it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, that's something too that I'm trying to. I'm actually working my way through that right now. Is you get out of college and you think, okay, well, I can eat, I can go to Burger King and or wherever, spend $10, $15, or it's like, you can eat out 2 or 3 times a week, or do I want to take that $10 or $15 I'd spend every day, and just eat out once a week, but go somewhere like, really nice with great service,
Yeah.
um, white tablecloth, kind of dinner. So that's something I still struggle with. I go back and forth because I like that immediate, like, I'm hungry right now, I want Sonic or whatever, versus just wait, save your money, have a nice sit down. You're going to enjoy that food better anyway, right? So
Yeah.
I've been trying to get more into that mindset lately, but that's
Hmm.
just me.
Yeah. Did During your time at Wingate, what were some things that you enjoyed doing outside of campus?
Well, I mean, a lot of it was, playing disc golf, traveling. I mean, we really, by the time we were juniors, we had started our own disc golf business, right? We were running tournaments all over Charlotte, all over the mountain area, like Wilkes, Catawba, Jefferson. So we were
Hmm.
making I mean, for us, like for college kids, right? We're making a ton of money doing that. When we weren't doing that, we were playing, we were planning. But we'd also go to ultimate frisbee events and stuff. Other than that, there's just really not really a whole lot to do, like in Monroe. Like Wingate is so nice and so
Hmm.
beautiful, but the second you step off that campus, you're like, there's nothing to do here, right? So, we'd go to Top Golf every now and then, or we would, we'd go to say one of our friends' house for the weekend, right? If they had something cool going on at their house. So, I just kind of really went with the flow, Well, it was me and Sam were pretty much attached at the hip. Whatever he was doing, whatever I was doing, we were doing it together. So that's pretty much how my off-campus activities went. What
Just
about
playing
you?
disc golf.
Yeah. What kind of stuff did you get into, Adam? I lived really boring and really simple.
Uh, if I wasn't doing homework or obviously working, um, I mentioned before, like I've always wanted to go to Charlotte. So um I would drive to Charlotte just to go to like the outlets and stuff and just buy stuff because I was working, so I had money on me and I would get all types of stuff for myself and just treating myself really and just I remember going to the outlet and just like driving uptown, parking some random parking lot, pay for it, and just walk around and just experience like the city really.
Yeah, yeah, I loved Charlotte, especially after we graduated. I actually got an apartment
Hmm.
just outside Antigua Cay, and so I was spending like all of my time. Like we'd go into Still Creek or like an Airsley Grand, like that movie theater. I'd go there all the time. There was one season, I think I went to at least 15 Hornets games. I was all the time going to the Spectrum Center, or I've
Hmm.
checked out that Puttery. You know, like that Puttery. It's like a bar, but then it's got like a
Yeah.
9-hole mini golf course inside. It was really expensive, but been there, been to Top Golf many times. I really, really liked the vibe in Charlotte. Actually, I would have never moved down here to Charleston um, if it wasn't for my fiance. I would have stayed in Charlotte my whole life. I really liked it. I mean, living near the beach now is cool and everything, but there's just so much to do, in Charlotte, and it's a real vibe. I do miss it sometimes.
Yeah, man, that's the ultimate goal for me to live out there. Do you remember that? I think it was a SmackDown that you invited me to.
Yeah, I do remember that, and I've got a story behind that too. But I do remember that. Yes,
Really?
where were you going with that? Yes,
Do you remember what happened on that show?
I remember that Charlotte Flair came out after the show went off air. Are you talking about like what happened with the superstars on the show, or something that happened with our group?
What happened on the show, like the Superstars?
Remember Charlotte Flair came out for a title match, like is like the dark main event. After the TV goes off air, they have matches to kind of
Yeah.
send fans off happy. She
Yeah.
lost. Um, I actually don't remember a ton about the show itself, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yeah, what
Okay.
what happened on that show? Roman Reigns was there, right? Was he? Maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know. But you remember to start off the show, this is back when Daniel Bryan was the champion. And he was that like uh whatever, like the clean
The environmental, and he
environment,
had the
yeah.
different belt. Yeah, okay.
And this was during the time where Kofi Mania was kind of getting big. And
Oh
right
yeah, that's right.
right before they was about to sign a contract for their match, here comes KO when he returned, Kevin Owens. You remember
I don't, man. It was so
that?
long ago.
Yeah, because it, Shane, Stephanie, and Vince was out there. Yeah, I remember that.
On the show.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I don't remember that. I actually there's not a lot I mean I remember the show, how I got the tickets, and like
Hmm.
roughly where we were sitting. But the show itself I don't remember a whole lot. Usually with the shows I don't, if they're just um like a regular TV event. Obviously, I remember I went to WrestleMania 33, so I pretty well remember that. I remember the Raw after because I was there. That's when Roman Reigns beat the Undertaker, right? Crowd
Yeah.
was red hot, so Finn Balor returned and all that, and so there's
Uh-huh.
little things I remember. And the other show that sticks out in my mind because I've been to a bunch. I mean, I could not count on two hands how many WWE shows I've been to.
Hmm.
Um, but I do remember going to Monday Night Raw is 2016. It was the go home edition before SummerSlam. I was in Atlanta with a friend. She drove up from Florida. I drove down from North Carolina. We sat in the front row right next where they rang the bell. I remember Dwight Howard was like me to this wall. He was playing for the
Hmm.
Atlanta Hawks then. and it was the SummerSlam that Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton were in the main event.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that Brock Lesnar was in the ring, and Randy Orton came out of nowhere and gave him that RKO. But just sitting in that front row, seeing how like even Charlotte Flair, like seeing how big they are compared to how they are on TV. To me, that
Yeah.
because when you're sitting, like even in the 100 level sections, like yeah, like you're like oh my gosh, but when you're sitting like front row, seeing how big these people are, especially someone like
Hmm.
Brock Lesnar, like it is crazy. And I remember after the show went off air, John Cena came out there, and there was a girl that was on my side, but she was up in the stands. She was holding up a sign about her beating cancer, something like that. And John Cena climbed over the barricade, walked right past me, went up there, took one of the armbands off, and gave it to her.
Yeah.
And she was so happy. He came back. He shook my hand. He only shook like three people's hand, and I was like, his hand was like the size of my face. Like that guy, that's a big dude. That guy's a big dude. Um, I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but yeah, there's a few shows I remember, but that show we went to actually. So I got the tickets. I had this friend, and I still text him once in a while. Jabari, he had bought 6 tickets. He wanted to treat like everybody
Hmm.
to go on a trip there, and this guy that was I wouldn't really say he's in our group, but he was hanging out with us a lot. He was being a real jerk to Jabari. And Jabari said, "Hey, Matt, I'm not coming back to Wing It next year. I want you to hold on to these tickets, and I want you to go to this show without me." And he's like, "But whatever you do, don't take that guy that was bullying him and being mean to him." And I said, "Okay." And then I think that same semester is like when we met. We had
Okay.
either met the semester previously or that semester. And I was like, "This guy likes WWE. I think you'd have been over to my apartment a couple of times to watch some shows or whatever." And I was like, "Kendrick's pretty cool." I said, "I'm gonna see if he wants to go to this event with me." And that's how I got the tickets. They were actually all free, and he had bought them, but he wasn't able to go. And he wanted me to make sure that certain people went. And I was like, "Well, I got a free ticket, and Kendrick's a great guy. Let's get him up in here." So that was that was awesome because oh yeah, because we all FaceTimed him when we got there.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that. Yep. So, and I don't know if you guys actually ever met.
No, I don't think so.
You and Jabari. No, yeah. So
Hmm.
but he's doing good now. I think he lives in Winston now. Ended up I think going to college down there and all that good stuff. But yeah, so that was fun times.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned before when you were 5, you got introduced to wrestling. Who
Yep.
was who was who was that first guy that you watched and you was like, wow, I gotta watch this more.
Yep. So the first time I ever saw wrestling, I don't remember what match was on, but I remember seeing Shawn Michaels do a moonsault off the top rope, but like not in the ring, like to the outside of the ring. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And, my bedtime as a kid was 9. And at the
Yeah.
time, Raw wasn't 3 hours, right? It was 9 to 11, not, 8 to 11. So my parents were like, well, sorry, you can't watch Raw, unless you don't have school the next day, but you can watch, SmackDown was 8 to 10. So you could watch like, the first hour of SmackDown. So Kurt Angle was my guy. I loved Kurt Angle. I remember watching John Cena's first match, like as a kid in front of the TV. I can still visually see it. And once I got a little older, and I was so obsessed. Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, they were really like my two go tos. I liked the Undertaker, but I also thought he was a little weird, because of like the whole death thing. Well,
Dead man stuff.
when I first started watching, he was the American Badass, where he was driving his motorcycles to the ring and stuff. So I thought that was
Yep.
cool. But then when he went back to the Dead Man, I was like, it's kind of weird, but everybody likes the Undertaker, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but then I started, watching more Monday Night Raw, and then then it became to okay, you can watch until Shawn Michaels segment's over. Then you gotta go to bed. So then that kind of led to me getting a TV in my room, and you got to go to bed at 9. But if you have wrestling on, we're not, how it goes. So we,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that just kind of built. And I mean, I up through high school, and it wasn't until probably after high school that I quit watching it like every week, like every single week, all the time. I was obsessed. Um,
Yeah.
had all the action figures. I still have all the action figures. I had all the toy belts. Um, yeah, but for me, it was seeing Shawn Michaels do a moonsault off the top rope. What was your moment, Ken?
I got into it when I was about 7 or 8, somewhere around there. And I remember just flipping through the channels, and it was right at the moment where John Cena was coming out for, I guess, I don't remember, it was for a match or a segment or a promo segment. But watching a guy come out with this insane spinner belt that's all shiny, and a guy wearing jean shorts, sneakers, saying that you can't see him. It's like, well, who's this guy? I gotta get know him, but more and better. And I was hooked right then and there. Then I watched a match of his, which I don't even remember what match it was or who it was against, but that was the moment where I was like, huh, I was curious. Like, what is this going on? Just like two or however many guys in the ring just fighting each other. That piqued my interest. And all these years later, I'm still at it.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing is there's a story in it for everybody, right? The
Hmm.
show's not built around, one character. I mean, yeah, you do have your characters that are more prominent than the other. Like Roman Reigns is going to get more TV time than Chad Gable. Like that's just how it is, if he's on the show that night. But that's one thing I like about it. There is a little something for everybody. And I remember I remember when John Cena won the US title, the first WrestleMania. I remember like bits and pieces of 19, like it being on the TV, but the first WrestleMania, like I remember was WrestleMania 20. And so John
Yeah.
Cena fought the Big Show for the U.S. title. It was the opening match on the card, and then like a few weeks
Hmm.
later, he came out. He put it in a garbage can, and he had this spinner,
Dinner.
like
Yeah.
before the spinner WWE title, he had a spinner U.S. title. So that was really cool. I think that was around the time he was feuding with like JBL and
Hmm.
Orlando. What was his name? Um,
Brown.
Orlando Brown. Was that it? And the Basham
Yeah, I think
brothers.
so.
They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
all
yeah,
in
yeah.
like a stable together.
Hmm.
I remember that being really cool, and I think that was really, I guess, more towards the next year's WrestleMania because that's when he won the belt for the first time.
Yep.
It's when he beat JBL, so I remember that. Yeah, that was awesome. That was the first WrestleMania I remember. I remember the main event was Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. One of the probably still to this day the greatest triple threat match of all time. Like I remember
Yeah.
seeing the thing that sticks out in my mind about that match um, is Chris Benoit had Shawn Michaels in the crossface, and he was about to tap, and Triple H like comes in the ring and like it like holds his wrist so he can't tap out. I said that is just so like looking back on that, it's so creative. Some of the
Hmm.
things that they think of, like we've done 100 triple threat match. How can we make this one different?
Yep.
And sometimes you get a hit like that, and other times it's like that was about what I expected.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I was going on a
What
big tangent,
what's
but yeah.
what's crazy is that 20 was your first Mania. 21 was my first. And I remember having the three disc set for 21, 22, and 23. And I used to watch all those just over and over and over again. Like the first match for 21 was Eddie and Ray back when they were tag team champions. And that kind of like was the setup point for Eddie to turn. You remember that?
Yeah, where they did the I'm your poppy and they had Dominic on there and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, that broke my heart
yeah,
because I was Eddie was like my number two or number three behind Kurt and Sean. I loved
yeah,
Eddie. Yeah.
yeah. And 21 was the first Money in Bank match where Edge
That's
won it.
yeah. Yep, and Batista and Triple H were in the world
Yeah, in
title
the
main
main
event
event.
match. Yep.
Yep. And to be honest with you, to this day, that's still my favorite like build up to a championship match. Batista Triple H. Just that slow burn of obviously Batista eventually turning babyface and just like those facial expressions or just the way Triple H treated Batista at that point in time. Like, oh, you're a nobody. You're just a juiced up meathead. Really, you don't have any personality. You don't have nothing. You're never better than going to be better than me. That story just like I don't know. It's nostalgia for me.
Yeah, the same can be said for me. The first actual pay-per-view I remember watching like start to finish without being sent to bed was SummerSlam 2003. The main event was the second ever Elimination Chamber match, and I think it was right when Evolution was getting pretty hot.
Mhm.
But Batista was out. I think he was still out. I don't know what he was doing, but it was Shawn Michaels, Triple H, like a young Randy Orton, like no tattoos on his arm, head full of hair.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash. It was like last match. I think still to this day, I don't think he's wrestled in WWE since that match. Um, Chris Jericho and Goldberg. And I remember everybody thought Goldberg was going to win that match. Everybody. And there at the end of that match, he went to go spear Triple H, and Ric Flair had slid him a sledgehammer between the chains. So he hit him in the back of the head, and everyone was so pissed. I remember my parents made me go upstairs because after the match, they handcuffed Goldberg to the cage, and Triple H was kept hitting him in the head with a hammer, and there was so much blood. They're like, "You can't see this. You got to you got to go to bed." And I'm like, "But I want to see what they're doing." So
Yeah.
that was the first that, and I remember on that show too was Eric Bischoff was doing like a creepy thing with Linda McMahon back when she was still on the program. And so they had a match between Shane McMahon and Eric Bischoff. And that was the first time I seen, Shane do something crazy where he, jumped off the top rope and onto the announce table, putting
Hmm.
Eric through it, and Stone Cold came out and gave him the stunner. It was great. That was a great pay-per-view. I mean, I don't know like in the history of wrestling if it was a great pay-per-view, but just as a kid, knowing that's like the first one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I was a big Rob Van Dam fan too. He was also one of my favorites growing up. And so he had a match with Kane. It was like right when Kane unmasked, and they were like giving him this monster, like unstoppable push. And I remember there was one segment leading up to it where he like handcuffed Rob Van Dam to somewhere in the back and poured a whole thing of gasoline on him, and then lit a match. But he didn't light him
Hmm.
on fire. He blew it out. But that was, yeah, some of the stuff they used to do back then, man, that was crazy. Like I
Yeah.
remember my mom turned the last one on my little rant here, but my mom turned off the TV. It was around the same time period. Shane McMahon and Kane were going at it, and Kane handcuffed Shane McMahon to the ring post and brought out like electrical cables and like put them on his nutsack. And my mom was like, "Yeah," she's like, "You're not watching that." Like she turned it off, and I was so concerned. As
Yeah.
being like a 5, 6, 7 year old, however old I was then, like some of that stuff was crazy. It's stuff they
Yeah,
would
it's
never do
that
now.
never, never. So who's in your top five all time?
I think it depends on what we're talking about. So, I mean, if you're talking about who has contributed most to the business,
Yeah.
like period, um, that includes, bringing in casual viewers and all of that stuff. You would have to say
Mhm.
Hulk Hogan is definitely in there. Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin, probably The Rock, and John Cena. That would have to be the top five ever, in no particular order. I mean, obviously, I
Yeah.
think Stone Cold is probably to WWE fans probably the most iconic,
Mm.
wrestler of all time. Austin 316's the most selling shirt in history. And it was his feud with Vince McMahon that kind of was the turning point. One of the turning points in the Attitude Era. So, um, but then again, you've got an argument for Hulk Hogan to be number one. Without Hulk Hogan,
It
WWE
would
may
be
have
no
never made
Austin.
it.
Yeah.
When we know Austin, it may not have even made it on a global scale.
Hmm.
If you think about it, 'cause he was a huge, huge, huge star. But what about for you? Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore?
Hmm. Um, for me personally, I consider because obviously when it comes down to it, you have to be able to wrestle. But outside of that, it's about, like you said, putting butts in seats. You know what I'm saying? Being able to talk on the mic and just your overall attraction. So based off all of that, number one for me, my goal is The Undertaker, me personally, for him to have such a legendary character that lasts this long or up to his retirement is kind of crazy. And for him to knowing when to reinvent it, you know what I'm saying? Because you mentioned earlier about the American Badass, he had to switch it up. He can't be that the entire um, time of his career, and to still go back to it later on is just it has to be acknowledged. So number one, definitely Taker, just based off of that alone. Number two, for sure, is John Cena for me. Um, three, Sean,
Yeah,
and we're just doing Mount Rushmore, or we're doing five.
you do five.
Okay, so Taker, Cena, HBK, The Rock, and see a lot. When I say my fifth, a lot of people get on me because I don't have a particular person in my top five, but number five, I had to go Triple H, and a lot of
If you
people,
were
a lot
asking
of
me for he's in my personal favorite top five.
yeah,
So I agree with you. He's done a lot for the business.
yeah, and a lot of people get on me by not having Austin in my five, and I'm not saying that I'm not an Austin fan or uh, Austin didn't do, you know what I mean? Like like you said, he done a lot for the business. But for me personally, Triple H has done a lot for me as far as like a fan perspective, with legendary matches, just promos and just moments that he's done, so Triple H is just my guy for me personally.
Yeah, and like I said, my top five was based on putting butts in seats. But if I was going with like just who was my favorite top five wrestlers, like personal
Yeah,
opinion, it'd probably have to be Shawn Michaels, Triple H, John Cena, Kurt Angle, and probably, and I know, I may get flack for this because he's not, retired or anything yet, but AJ Styles, I love what he's done, with his body of work from, I watched him in his TNA days and definitely I followed his WWE career. What he's been able to do at his size,
yeah.
and with his personality, it's been pretty remarkable.
Hmm.
So, but I've always been a huge like I've always said this and I maintain it. Nobody has played a better bad guy in the history of professional wrestling than Triple H.
Yeah.
Like hot take, I don't care. 2002, 2003 Triple H. There is no one, you know, that I think could draw more heat. I mean, even you've seen like the memes with Jr. Like the way he would just talk about Triple H on air. I think part of that, kind of added to it, at least for me being a kid, right?
Hmm.
His storytelling, like over the announce booth, and his hatred for Triple H came out, made me hate Triple H that much more. So,
Yeah.
it's a whole show, and like you've got to rely not just on your characters and your talent, but also the announce team and like all of these people that have to sell the story. So I think he just had the right blend of what was needed during that era.
Most definitely, man. Like, I agree with that. But for me personally, that one guy that I just absolutely hated because of, again, me being a Cena guy, I absolutely hated Edge.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, I hated Edge
oh
too.
my God. And what made it worse was that he was just so arrogant, just so cocky with it. And then, and what added to it with him and Lita and that whole storyline.
Hmm. And how we
That
did
was
Matt
just,
Hardy and all that.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah.
they did a great job building up his character as a bad guy.
Yeah.
What's who would you say right now, if you can look back on it, um, who do you think is the greatest superstar to never win the title? Could be
That's
past
like
or present.
right now or just okay, present, past, present. That didn't win like the WWE title or just like
Right. Yeah, the WWE or the World Heavyweight Championship, either or.
oof. Um did Piper ever win the big one?
I don't think so. I don't think he did.
Yeah, just the amount of work that he put in, especially during that time with him and Hogan, and I felt like he deserved at least one.
Yeah, I do too, and Dusty Rhodes too. Kind
Hmm
of what happened to him, and even Cody, right? Very obvious, right in front of our face. I said when he was doing the whole, where he was wearing that face mask.
Yeah,
What was that? You remember
uh,
that gimmick that he was doing? I said, right, I said,
yeah.
this guy is going to be a world champion one day. And then they did the Stardust thing and he left. And I was like, guess not. And then now he's back and he's, a bigger star than ever. One guy I'll say that flew under the radar that I always thought had everything that they just never pulled the trigger on was Shelton Benjamin. Like Shelton Benjamin, like 04 to 06, like I thought he was incredible. I thought they really missed an opportunity with him because he was definitely a once in a lifetime. He kind of reminded me of Rob Van Dam in some ways, and his athleticism was off the chart. I think if he just had
hmm
a little more personality, and if they could have just redirected his character just a little bit, I think he would have had a good shot at it.
You want to know who else I just thought about? That's
Oh,
doing probably the best work he's ever done right now in AEW, Christian.
yeah. Well, Christian did win the world title. He won
Well,
it.
not the WWE title.
Right. He won the
And,
world
and
heavyweight.
me personally, I feel like he only got that because of Edge. Because you remember that storyline where he retired and he was
Yeah.
only doing it to, you know,
Yeah, Christian's doing some great work in AEW. I don't watch the show every week, but I see,
Mhm.
like his promo segments and stuff that blow up on social media. The stuff he's been doing with Edge and like the heat that he gets for some of the stuff he says has been incredible.
Yeah,
Like, when's the last time you saw a heat, like, or a heel say some of the stuff that this guy's saying on TV?
not many.
Not many, yeah. Like, he's doing a great job.
Yeah, most definitely, man. So you spoke about The Rock earlier. What what do you think about what are your thoughts of what's going on right now as far as, you got the main event in WrestleMania 40 right ahead of us in Philadelphia. And for the past at least year or so, it's been set in stone, or at least for us fans, that Cody and Rome is going to run it back in the main event for the title. And it was
Yeah.
kind of crystal clear and set in stone just a couple weeks ago when Cody won the Rumble. And now, literally a couple days later, here comes The Rock and just nah. How did you feel about
Yep.
that?
I think it's more complex versus I liked it or I didn't like it. I think there's a lot of different things that we have to take into account here, right? One is as fans, like I watched WrestleMania last year. Like I wanted Cody to win, and I saw him get beat. And the fan expectation is they're going to run it back. But was that really WWE's expectation, right? For one, right? Do we kind of know where they're thinking about taking this creatively? Like The Rock and Roman Reigns, like we presume it's happening, right? I think it's going to happen, but the match hasn't exactly been announced. And you heard Cody say on SmackDown, right? Like, yes, the World Heavyweight Championship is great, it's prestigious, but it's not that title.
Hmm.
Like, it's not the same title that Bruno San Martino and Hulk Hogan and all the greats had. Well, I guess Hulk Hogan did in WCW, but that besides the point. You get what I'm saying. Um, I think part of it is Philadelphia and Chicago are probably the two rowdiest crowds that WWE has. So I think that's ballsy that they decided to pull that when everyone is looking forward to it being Cody and Roman too. But at the same time, I understand it from a business perspective, right? I mean, no one in this world is going to put more eyeballs on your product than The Rock. He's the highest paid actor in Hollywood, proven track record with WWE. He's a box office hit every single time. On top of that, to compound that, you know, Cody is still in his prime. Roman Reigns is still in his prime. They can always run it back, but The Rock's schedule is not always available. And The Rock is in his mid 50s. He's not going to be available forever. They wanted to do the match last year, but they couldn't because of his schedule. Maybe they know like, hey, The Rock is definitely going to be free on this day and can commit to this match. We don't know if the cards are going to fall, that way ever again, right?
Yeah.
Because it is once in a lifetime. It's a big enough match where The Rock thinks that he should come back and do it in the first place, right? I mean, if you think about it, is there anyone else on that level that a big, you know, they would require the return of a huge star, right? So I see it from many different lenses. Obviously, we all want Cody to win the championship and so on and so forth, myself included. I think he's the best babyface in the company. I think he's the biggest star in the company right next to Roman Reigns. No knocks on Seth Rollins. I think he's wonderful. I think Seth Rollins is the best wrestler in the world. I think he is in that ring. There's nobody that can touch him. Not Cody, not anybody. But in terms of a personality, a star, the person that's carrying your company forward, no one does it better than Cody Rhodes. The things he says in his interviews, how he conducts himself inside and outside the company. He is like a little mini John Cena, which is perfect. That's what you need in your baby face. You need someone that can be like that guy, and that's him. And so everybody wants to see him to win.
Hmm.
I want to see him to win. But if you can push that back to a SummerSlam or a whenever, right? And especially if it was the WWE's plans too, like if they want Roman Reigns to overtake Hulk Hogan's record, right? Is it going to be more backlash that Roman Reigns beats, say, The Rock at WrestleMania than he beats Cody, and then Cody has to wrestle him a third time when all the momentum's been killed again? I don't know if that makes sense, but like, and also too, WWE doesn't want it to be predictable, right? If you've been predicting the whole year, okay, yeah, Cody's going to go to WrestleMania, win the belt. Okay, Cody wins the Royal Rumble. We're on schedule. He's going to go win. What's exciting about that? What's exciting about knowing that, in the main event at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes is going to win the belt, and that's everybody's expectation, and that's everybody's thought going into it. In terms of a shock value, there's nothing there, right? Everybody knows Cody's going to finish his story. Everybody knows he's going to win the belt.
Hmm.
So I think it was kind of WWE's way, one, of throwing a curveball, um, and two, like we said, like we saw what happened with the news with Vince McMahon and Brock Lesnar. Brock's pretty much done. They reduced all of his merchandise 99% off on the website. He's not even being promoted in video games. Certainly Vince McMahon's in the hot seat, could be going to prison. Um, CM Punk tore his tricep in the Rumble match. I mean, that was going to be another hot match on the card, right? CM Punk and Seth Rollins. That was going to be just as big of a match as Cody and Roman too, like just as big. So I understand. I understand them wanting to call, an audible on that. I don't know. I know the fans want it, and you got to give the fans what they want. But at the same time, if you always give the fans what they want every single time, it doesn't drive. I guess it's like it is when a superstar gets over, right? It's all about the reactions, right? The Rock comes in, he does this. It's WWE's most disliked video ever. You're getting the crowd reaction. I mean, even the crowd was like, "This is awesome," right when they were facing off. Like you didn't see all this objection live. You might see it going forward now that it's set in and everything. But the point is it's drawing an emotion with the audience, and as long as they're doing that, I don't think that you can go wrong. Like part of wrestling is, you got to get the fans emotionally invested, and that doesn't mean being positively emotionally invested all the time. That means stressing them out. That means making them, being like, damn it, why are they doing, like getting all worked up, and then they tune in the next week to see if something's going to change or to see
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. Right? It's an emotion game. If you're not feeling a valley of emotions watching wrestling or a movie or anything else, right? You're not going to be, you know, that invested. So that's kind of my take on it. So the short answer is I would have liked to have seen Cody versus Roman, but I understand why they're doing this, and I can't be mad about it. What about yourself? I know you said you were going to go on a rant about it. I want to hear your thoughts and what you think, but that's like my complex thoughts on what's going on with that.
Well, similar to you, yeah, I've always wanted to see that, Roman and Cody part two, because, I felt like he was right there last year. You know what I mean? And so I mean, I get it, you know what I'm saying? Because you have to make a business decision. Like you said, The Rock draws money. He's the biggest star, and you have to do whatever you have to do to sell your product, which is WrestleMania. However, how I personally feel is if the idea truly was to eventually have Rock and Roman to have the title match, um, then why sell us on this idea of Cody being the guy and being the biggest star in the company, like you said, biggest babyface since Cena, you know what I'm saying, and continue to push this guy and win match after match after match, and having this presence of him to be the guy to eventually, you know, take Roman off his throne, only to win the Rumble, you know what I'm saying? That which guarantees you a world title match, which we all knew he was going to choose Roman. Like we've seen Rollins and Cody three times. Cody won all three. If that's the direction that they go, I'm not even that interested in it because we all know Cody might win, and only for him to literally give away his championship match to The Rock. That part of it, I don't care for and I don't like. The match itself, I understand and I get it. You know what I'm saying? Rock, Roman, we've been wanting this for the past, what, 2, 3 years now? And like you said, the idea for that match was supposed to take place last year. And, Cody was plan B and they went along with that. So in a nutshell, I understand and I get it. It's a business. And sometimes us fans can't get everything that we want. And it's going to bring a lot of eyes. I remember not even 5, 10 minutes after the SmackDown went off air, I've seen that Sports Center and ESPN posted about it. Roman Reigns, The Rock, face to face, and it had so many likes, so many comments, and just like that, right there. It brought eyes to the product. It brought the attention just off that alone, just to stare down. They didn't even say a word to each other. So imagine the promos that they're going to have, The Rock and Paul Heyman having back and forths, you know what I'm saying? And even him and, Rock and Solo or Rock and Jimmy, you know what I'm saying? And that's just, you know what I mean? So that idea I get, but I just didn't care for the Cody aspect and just him giving up his spot like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I get that. But I think part of it too is, I mean, think about the story, right? Not everyone's story is linear, right? You don't always peak or get like that moment on like the biggest stage of your life. I guess if that makes sense, right? Or sometimes our story isn't linear. I'm going to do this, 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 and that, and I'm going to have my goal. Like sometimes there's curveballs that are outside of your control that are
Mhm.
thrown into your plans. So I think part of it, which I know fans are not going to, perceptualize it like that, but I just try to view it as someone that wants to continue to enjoy the product, right, and what's going on the TV. Um, I just want that to be like something that I think about, right? This is just
Mhm.
another stepping stone in Cody's story. It doesn't have to be, I mean, yeah, it'd be great, right? It'd be awesome if it finished at WrestleMania. That's the biggest stage of them all. But is that where everybody's story needs to, culminate every single year? Right. I feel like two is, the internet and Twitter or X, and all these platforms now, especially Twitter. And I mean, I'm on Twitter all the time. So I see it not just with WWE, but with the NBA, anywhere. People are, they're so quick to like shut something down or to turn on somebody or to take the joy out of the product because we're over
Mhm.
analyzing everything that it's doing. We've made our own expectations in our mind as fans or as a fan base as to what we think needs to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, everyone's going on their Twitter, on threads, or wherever and complaining about it and getting everybody, all worked up back and forth. And I feel like a lot of the times that can take enjoyment out of what we're seeing. Um,
Yeah.
I think it does that a lot. Sometimes it does good. Like you remember Daniel Bryan? That was awesome. Like the crowd just took over the show week after week, every single week. Like John Cena and Randy Orton, two of the greatest of all time. Remember that Rumble match they had where
Mhm.
all they wanted was Daniel Bryan? So the crowd was chanting CM Punk, this is boring. Like they were chanting literally anything under the sun other than for one of those, guys.
Yeah.
And it sucks for them, but that is part of being a fan as well. Is we drive the product. We're the ones that buy tickets to the shows. We're the ones that pay the subscription to to watch the content and to do all that. So it's a game, right? It's a game of
Mhm.
keeping us on our toes and keeping us invested emotionally, but not alienating your fan base where people aren't actually tuning in and watching the product. So I don't know. That's just kind of how I'm taking it right
I,
now. I'm just looking at it as another step in his story and just trying to focus on what's ahead of us because I think the build up for this match could actually be pretty good
oh,
with the
for sure,
family ties and all that.
especially on the mic.
Right. And that's where all the hype gets built from.
Yeah.
Like is the mic, I mean, unless it's, like Finn Balor and AJ Styles, I think they had a match like totally unannounced. It was like on the fly.
Yeah.
Great match. Great match. But no build up. Right? And part of the buildup is telling a story, and there's not many people in the world that are on a microphone than The Rock and Roman Reigns. Like the way Roman Reigns totally obliterated Seth Rollins the other night. I mean, just cooked him like he's a bowl of soup, man. That was that like it takes a special talent to be able to do something like that, and they both have it, and they're both electric with it. So I'm trying not to get lost like in this vision of this is what's supposed to happen. It's not happening, so now I hate it, and I'm trying to kind of, you know, This is going to happen. I'm accepting it. I'm going to try to enjoy it, and then I'm going to see where they take Cody from there. And see what they do with him, because I would be shocked if The Rock won that match. I
You
would
know
be
what?
absolutely
And you
shocked.
and you know what's crazy? Because like it's one of those things where like if you like or react to a certain article on whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or any of these or X, and similar posts come along, I saw something where after everything happened with The Rock Roman, I saw something where I guess you can say an insider or whatever reported that like The Rock really, really pushed for this. And not only that, but he's like pushing to actually win, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I saw that too. And, part of me thinks, and they do this too in other sports, like you see in the NBA as well, like people will intentionally leak stuff to get other people talking,
Yeah,
or leak false information. Like you see in the NBA, like such and such team is looking for, 5 first round picks for this player or whatever, when they're really not. Or they're looking for, or so and so has great interest in this player, you know, or someone's camp, like say it's LeBron, say like LeBron's camp releases something like LeBron may be interested in a trade to Cleveland, you know, get it out there,
yeah,
but doesn't mean he's like serious about it, right? But it's to get people talking, and I don't know. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for The Rock to win the match. I think if you had Roman Reigns hold that title for over 3 years and he loses it to someone that's not a full time superstar, I think that's disgusting. I think that would be a waste of his entire championship run. It's been great. It's been legendary. I've loved his title reign. I love what he's done over the last 3 years. But if you're going to have him lose it, it needs to be to put somebody over big time, and The Rock doesn't need to be put over. The Rock is a megastar inside and outside of WWE. There's no reason that he needs to have the belt. Period.
yeah.
That's
And if
just
he if
me.
he if he does win, that would be the second title run that he ended because you remember he beat Punk for his title run.
That'd be the what?
You didn't hear me?
So, I heard you say if he won, that would be, and then it kind of cut out, and you said title run.
I got you. If The Rock did win and beat Roman Reigns for the title, that would be his second title run that he ended. You remember when he beat Punk?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. And Punk did, do that. And that's the thing too. Like they say, the Rock's pushing to win this match. I saw that report too. Well, if it's Roman Reigns and Cody, you could almost bet Cody Rhodes is winning that match. And now, oh, the Rock's back. He owns part of TKO now. Like he's in their decision making. And he's wrestling, and he pushed for a match with Roman Reigns in the belt. Like there's potential
Hmm.
there. Like they have this match, you literally don't know who's going to win. Versus if it was Cody and Roman, it would be the expectation that Cody would win.
Hmm.
And now all that's put on the wayside, which adds, you know, more interest. Like it might not be interesting as like I'd rather have saw Cody Rhodes, right? But it's like I know if I watch it, I know Cody would win versus I don't know who's going to win this match. What are they doing? What's going to happen? Gets people talking. So
It
I
definitely
don't know.
does, man. And I guess that's the whole point of even putting Rock in that position, right?
One, to get eyeballs on it, and two, to get people talking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I think we just have to be a fan, tune in every week, find out what it is they're really, like I said, the match isn't even announced yet. We don't even know if that's, looks to be that way. It probably will be.
Mhm.
But let's see what they do with Cody, moving forward. Will he actually wrestle Seth Rollins? Will he? I read a report saying they might have him beat Seth and then go on and do like a unification match. I'm like, that would be stupid
Another unification match.
at SummerSlam. Like right after you rolled out this title, you're going to do a unification match. That would be dumb. I
Very.
don't think they need that. I don't think they need that. I think I don't know. And really, it throws a wrench in there too for CM Punk. Like, what's he going to do? That match with Seth Rollins is still absolute money. Him and Cody are going to have a feud. He's going to be a top 3 superstar when he comes back. You
Hmm.
take the belt off Seth, you know, I mean, there's still a storyline to be had there and still a match, but for the title, it's like the ultimate, right? The ultimate peak. So I'm
Yeah.
just curious to see what all their plans are. He's going to be out for several months. So, you tear your tricep, you're not coming back in a month. So, but we'll see.
We will see, man. I feel like Punk being out kind of like put a wrench in everything they had planned. Because
Because he was,
I genuinely think it was going to be Cody and Roman if Punk
mm-hmm.
didn't get hurt, and Punk and Rollins was going to main event night one, Cody Roman at two. I genuinely think that if now that Punk is out, I feel like they had no choice but to, you know, put the Rock in there.
Cody and Seth. Cody and Seth is going to be night one, and Roman Reigns and The Rock are going to be night two.
Yep.
And Cody will go over on Seth, and Roman Reigns will go over on The Rock. My thing is whoever, or it's going to be vice versa. Like that would be my prediction. If that's the card, if Seth retains his title versus Cody, The Rock will beat Roman Reigns. If Cody wins the belt, I think that Roman will retain. I don't think they're going to do 2 world title changes in one show. That's just me.
You never know.
Yeah, but I will say, outside of all that, super happy for Bayley. Big Bayley fan, love her to death. I'm so happy she won the Rumble. I'm glad that she's gonna hopefully beat Io Sky for the belt.
Hmm.
I've always liked Bayley since the day, since her debut. I was there for. I didn't ever watch NXT, so I wasn't familiar with her until she debuted on the main roster. But I've always been a big fan. I like her a lot.
Most definitely. What's your hype level for Uso versus Uso? Jay, Jimmy.
I think it could be great. I think if they do the storyline right, that's going to be great. Braun Breaker versus Gunther
Braun Breaker. Yeah.
Breaker. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I don't watch NXT, so I did see their stare down. That was supposed to be Brock's spot. I get that. I think that Gunther is going to be something.
Hmm.
In the WWE, he's going to be something. But yeah, Uso versus Uso is going to be big. I want to see what to do with Bianca Belair. She is, and Jade Cargill as well. I want to see what they do with her. She would really, really impress me. I would like to see her and
Yeah.
Bianca have a match, because, quite frankly, Bianca's my favorite female superstar. I like her a lot. I just think she has the right build, the right moves. I mean, I know she's got the little hair gimmick, like, it can get tiring. It's the same thing every time, but in the ring, I think she's super impressive. I like her a lot. So I want to see
Hmm.
what they do with Jade though, because I was really impressed with her at the Rumble.
Yeah. And you want to know what's insane about Bianca this entire time she's been in the company? She's been a babyface her entire run.
Yeah, I would like to see her be a heel, but I don't know if she has it in her. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if she actually has that, like, in her DNA to like pull it off and make it believable.
If they went that
But
route,
then
she would have to
again,
cut her hair, right?
you would
Or do something
think
different with it.
maybe. I mean, I thought that I could be wrong. I said the same thing about Bayley. I said there's no way this girl could be a heel, and I didn't like it at first, but the more the more it went on, the more it kind of grew on me, and she actually did a
Hmm.
pretty good job.
Yeah.
Especially hating on Michael Cole. That was funny.
Yeah.
I'll miss that going forward. But
What,
this is the thing, you just never say never.
yeah. What do you think they should be doing for LA Knight for Mania?
I think I would really like to see them like I my fear is that they're gonna have him win like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or whatever it is now, you know. But I don't want that for him. I'd at least like to see him go home with some gold, like the U.S. title maybe. I think
Yeah.
that'd be obtainable. Obviously, he's not going to wrestle Gunther. That's not going to happen. But if he could leave with like the U.S. title or or something, I think that would be great for him. Because that's the thing too is actually scratch that, scratch it all together. I didn't say that. My plan for LA Knight would be because I don't know where they're going with Cody Rhodes. I don't want to see Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins 4. I had zero interest. I want to see LA Knight beat Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. And here's why. LA Knight is one of the hottest stars in the company right now. He's in his mid 40s. Yeah, he's red hot and he doesn't have a lot of time left in this business. He's got maybe like 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Seth Rollins' title reign is already running dry. It's already gotten pretty stale. And again, this comes from big Seth Rollins guy. I love Seth Rollins. Title reign's getting to be kind of boring. Just let LA Knight have a run with it for a few months. Like, let him have a run with it for a few months. Have Seth win it back eventually, and
Hmm.
then by that, have him win it about a month before Punk comes back, and then run that back. That's what I would do. I'd put the title on LA Knight, and I'd find something else for Cody to do. Because Cody said he's going to. I mean, he's coming for Roman Reigns' title. Does that mean that he can carry over this Royal Rumble win? Like, could he cash this in at a different time? Like, we just don't know what's going on. He already said on SmackDown, I don't want the World Heavyweight Championship. Like, it's cool and everything, but I want the WWE title, which is what Roman Reigns has. So I would like to see something else done there, and I'd like to see LA Knight take on Seth Rollins. Just go ahead and cash in on LA Knight while he's hot. He's already one of the top merchandise, selling superstars in the company right now. He's at his prime. He's at the peak of his career right now, and he's only got, like I said, maybe like 3 or 4 years left. Just go ahead and let him have his moment. Like, he's earned this. Yeah, he was a late bloomer, but he's here. He's at the top of his game. He's at the top of the company in a lot of different ways. Go ahead and let him have his moment. That's my thoughts on him. What do you think?
As far as what LA Knight should be doing.
Yeah,
Um, I agree with you. He should have a golden opportunity for a title. Um, I mean, we all knew he was going to beat Roman, but that was a good spot for him to be in. Um, I feel like he should be going after the U.S. title against Logan Paul for the title because
yeah,
I didn't really agree with the idea of having put the title on Paul anyway. So go ahead and get that. A full timer has it. Let him have it for a good solid couple months and go from there.
yeah. I just wonder what they're going to do with Logan Paul since he's a big star. I feel like they're going to want a big star, maybe like LA Knight, to square up with him. So
Yeah.
that's possible. Like I said, my first choice would be for him to beat, and I rescind a little bit about what I said. Him to beat Seth Rollins, him hold the title, maybe CM Punk beat him for the title upon his return, and then him and Seth Rollins enter a feud with Punk going over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We just got. That's why we're not writers, man. We'll have to see what happens. But I honestly don't know what's going to happen. But I'll be there. I'll be watching, and I'm going to try to enjoy it either way.
For sure, man. How you feeling about this new I guess character of Drew McIntyre? He's been on the run so far.
Yeah. Well, there was those rumors about his contract and this and that, and he wasn't getting the spot he wanted. So naturally, if your character's not over and you're not getting the TV time that you're hoping for, or your character's run stale, you've got to reinvent yourself. I mean, the best of the best have always done that in this business. When you look at John Cena, prototype didn't work. Rapper gimmick, great, but it's not going to make you a main event talent, right? And once he was able to get to that point, he kind of pivoted and was able to be like the guy, the Superman, and that worked out, until he went to Hollywood, right? Like that worked out for him. Like the Undertaker, dead man, right? People,
Hmm.
see something else. He came back as the American Badass, love that, and then went back for a more nostalgic thing. So I mean, you see it all the time. So I like what Drew's doing. The way beat Seth Rollins. He's posted that meme. You see him. It wasn't a meme. It was like a short video. But he's like, never skip tricep day. You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, what he's doing is great. I've never been. I'm just going to come out flat out say it. I have never been a huge Drew McIntyre fan, like ever. Like at no point during anything. Like not even at his like when he was wrestling in what was it, Crown at the Castle. What was that pay per view that was like
Yeah, for the title
in
against
his
Roman.
spot?
Hmm.
Yeah, I was rooting for Roman Reigns so hard, so hard. Like I don't like hate Drew McIntyre, but I've never seen him as like a 1A type superstar. Like I've never put him in my brain on the same level as a Roman Reigns or as a Seth Rollins like kind of character. But that's just me. What do you think
Okay.
about him?
I like Drew. He cool.
You like what he's
I
doing now?
definitely this new edgier side of himself and um kind of heelish in a bit in a way, but it's still enjoyable to watch. If that makes sense. Um,
Yeah,
I'm interested what they do with him as far as Mania though.
yeah. I'm not sure really, to be honest with you. I mean, I know that they've ran it back, but I might would have given him that spot over Braun, to run it back with Gunther.
Mm.
But I mean, I know they're looking for something new, something fresh. I know they don't want to recycle the same stuff, but I just think they match up really well together. Like I feel like they wrestle each other like a very unique way that's different from the way a lot of wrestling's done today.
Mhm.
So that's why I like it. I think it gives them something different. And I don't know. I mean, all the characters are always going through changes. There's always going to be face turns, heel turns.
Yeah.
And with it being two nights, I mean, it's like you have so many superstars who are now perceived to be like at that top level.
Mhm.
Um, it's just, there's only so many spots on the card. I think he'll have a match. I'd be shocked if he didn't have a match. I don't know what's going to happen with Judgment Day. I could see Damian Priest cashing in.
On
I
who?
think when Damian,
The world title?
yeah, I think Damian Priest will cash in on the world title.
Okay.
Yeah,
What?
I could see that happening. I could see that being part of the story. I could see if they go Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes. I could see that. I could see Cody Rhodes pinning Seth Rollins, winning the belt, and then Damian Priest coming out there cashing in and winning the title, taking it right from Cody, and Cody
Oof.
not winning another title again until he wins the WWE title. I could see that happening as well. Like Cody's
Yeah.
finally done it. He's won the title. Oh, here comes the damn Judgment Day, you know? And then Priest has got that suitcase. Cash it in, south of heaven, boom. He's done. One, two, three. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
That's what I'm thinking because it's not realistic for Damian Priest to cash in on The Rock or Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
But for him to cash in on Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins, that makes a ton of sense.
Hmm.
You know, Seth's finally won a world title in WWE, and then here comes Damian Priest, snatches it right from him. Just like Dusty, remember Dusty Rhodes had the title taken away same day, right? And never
Hmm.
counted on the history books. Cody Rhodes wins the world title, loses it 2 seconds later. I think that'd be a great story, a great part of his story.
Yeah, for
To
sure.
say, God, the Rock came in, stole my spot, so I had to settle, to wrestle Seth Rollins. Well, I finally win some gold, and then of course, something comes in and knocks me down another notch. I still haven't finished what I'm trying to do. I think that could be a neat little thing, but that's just me. We'll see what happens.
Well, my last question on wrestling, man, is this. What is your biggest wrestling opinion, whether it could be controversial or anything? What is your biggest just personal opinion on wrestling?
Hmm, a good question. It's super broad, and um, I think that my biggest opinion on wrestling. God, that is so tough. That's a tough question because
Hmm.
I guess generalizing it is I think that they're the most incredible performers in the world. Not just because of all the different things they have to do, because of the shape that they have to be in, right? Wrestling shape, even like amateur wrestling, right? Like wrestling a 5 or 6 minute match, it takes so much. It's not like playing basketball or playing football, right? You play basketball, yeah, you're sprinting some, but also, you've got people standing in the corner waiting on some catch and shoot opportunities. You're just kind of jogging with your defender while he's trying to get open on a screen. Like you get subbed in, subbed out. You put two people out there for a 45-minute match where they're running back and forth, doing crazy flips off the top rope, doing the most athletic and like cardio stuff imaginable, right? On top of that, doing dangerous moves that could literally paralyze them for life if it went wrong or kill them or,
Hmm.
whatever. And on top of all that, they got to remember their spots. They got storylines to remember. And not only putting shows on in front of the fans, they have to politic their way behind the curtain to keep their spot, to improve their spot, and to get to where they want to be. I think of all the sporting professions that are out there, or entertainment professions for that matter, I think that has to be like the hardest job. And they also don't get an off season, you know, and they don't just wrestle on TV. They do their live events. They do like to me, it's just got to be like one of the hardest jobs, like period, to do is to be a pro wrestler. And I would argue that with anybody on any sport or any entertainment industry that would be the most challenging job that's out there. Is to be a successful professional wrestler and sports entertainer.
I agree for sure.
What would be your hot take?
Uh, I mentioned this to someone before, and I'll say it to you. There's a certain person within uh, WWE history that I feel like deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. However, based off of his actions, that would never happen. Um, just one of the greatest uh, technical wrestlers of all time, in my opinion, and just everything that he has done in his business, putting guys over and just constant memories that, you know, that's actually in all of our brains still to this day. I feel like he's owed that, but Benoit will never be in the Hall of Fame, but he should be. That's
No,
my
never.
opinion.
Oh yeah, I watched Chris Benoit for years. I remember hearing about it, all that stuff when it happened, watching the tribute show, seeing Vince having to come out the next night. Like Chris Benoit was one of the goats. Like he was the original taking you to Suplex City, you know?
Hmm.
And hey, if all this stuff comes forward and, if these charges and stuff stick, there's at least two more exceptional talents within the history of this business that will not be in the Hall of Fame either. You know, Brock Lesnar, one of the greatest athletes, sadly, also one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I always pulled for Brock, good guy or bad guy. You know, if this stuff comes out to be true, he's done. He'll never be in the Hall of Fame, UFC or WWE, and he deserves to be in both for what
Yeah,
he's done for both, industries. And Vince, that wouldn't even be a WWE. Sports entertainment wouldn't be anywhere near or on the level it is today without him. And because of what he's done, being literally the single most important person in the history of this subject will never be in the Hall of Fame because of what he's done. That's kind of crazy.
yeah,
Yep. No one has influenced wrestling more. No one has brought it on a grander scale. No one has pushed the boundaries like Vince McMahon. But, you know, I mean, we all knew he was kind of we knew he was a piece, but we didn't know he was this big of a piece, you know?
yeah,
So sucks for him, but, that's the thing. That's the thing about the world. It doesn't matter how great you are or how much money you made or how much you've done for an industry, you know, if your character is tarnished and if you yourself, were, you know, not a good person, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. They're not going to put you in the Hall of Fame. People don't remember all the great things you did. People remember, you know, how you made them feel.
yep,
So, I mean, I understand politically and stuff, you know, those people never going to be able to make it or be recognized or their contributions to the industry will be greatly diminished. But, you know, I'm with you. I think Chris should be in the Hall of Fame. I think no matter what happens, Vince, Brock, all terrible, did terrible things, terrible human beings, but what they did for the business, you know, is that not what the Hall of Fame's for? Just food for thought.
definitely, man.
That's my thought,
Hmm.
So Chris Benoit inspired a whole generation of talent. Vince McMahon gave this platform to literally anyone that's ever walked through that door since 1993 on television. It's been all him. Brock Lesnar, one of the greatest athletes, two-time NCAA, collegiate wrestling champion, UFC champion, multiple-time WWE champion. What he's done for the business cannot be understated either. Not standing up for what they do. I'm not saying that I'm not disgusted by the news that's came out, and they should definitely be, upheld to the fullest extent of the law. But if that's the purpose of the Hall of Fame, to recognize people that have made substantial contributions to the industry, I think you have to separate that from their character and who they are. You can say, I don't like this person, this person's going to rot in hell, but this is what they did for the business. They have to be in there because without them, we wouldn't be where we're at today. But that's just me.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, man, I really appreciate you, man, for coming up here, man. And it was good chopping it up.
yeah, appreciate it, Kendrick. This dude, I
Yes,
got
sir.
lost in the sauce. My fiance called me during this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been on for over 2 hours. That's awesome because it's hasn't, hadn't felt like that. We've just been talking and having a good time. So if you ever want to have me back on in the future, man, this has been a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here and just talk wrestling with you and talk life, man. It's been a good time.
for sure, man. Before we get out of here, what are your socials people can follow you?
Yeah, socials. Oh, what is my handles? Oh my gosh, this is so bad. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I think I'm at Myers M27. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's going to be at Matt the Broski. Put that out there before Zack Ryder went on his tear, so just letting you know. I have zero followers on X. I literally only get on it to keep up with NBA stuff. So if any NBA heads are out there listening or wrestling fans, I'd be happy to connect on those on X. X is what I'm on the most.
I gotcha.
So, all right.
All right, man. So, like I said, this is Conversations with yours truly, Kendrick McKnight, man. Again, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content. And until next time, yes, sir.